We're a Kiwi couple living in Australia who brought a 57-foot steel trawler after she sunk in a flood and was pulled from the sea. We're now bringing her back to life. We're on to the finishing jobs after working on her for the last 6 years to refit and get her ready for launch as soon as possible. Brupeg is rebuilt by us with volunteers funded by Patreons and viewers, and we spend every cent we have to make sure that she's ready. She's fueled by veggie oil, diesel, solar and wind power to do research, projects and expeditions to remote places like Antarctica and the Northwest Passage. She'll be crewed by supporters from around the world. Welcome aboard. G'day, welcome back to Project Brupeg. This episode we're going to be putting a seat on our workbench and installing a kick-ass vice.
Coming out in the morning with Renko hanging on some straps. Going in this morning.
Renko's looking strapping this morning.
Without love in your heart, without love by your side, without love playing part, tell me what you do, tell me what you do. Without love in your heart, without love by your side, without love playing part, tell me what
Dane is doing his morning dance.
Morning yoga.
I hate to say it, but that final day does let me at least go get those glasses and do a few other little hiccups in things.
Oh, wait.
Yep.
Didn't really make it yesterday. Tiniest finer point. Like, I'm thinking just one.
God, that gate's awesome. It's such a perfect height. Like the deck.
I know, yeah.
I think you've chosen the right deck height.
Almost. Mounted the shovel quite high so that Tiller could go below it
Nice.
just have it go across the transom.
Yeah, great. Is that to dig yourself out if you get stuck?
That's for the, I've got a whole lot of forward driving gear.
Yeah, cool.
I noticed crossing the road the first time a car's ever stopped for Renko. It's
Do you have those big yellow tracks that you have to put under your
put
wheel?
under the keel,
Yeah, good.
put it under the prop.
Yeah, jam it into the prop as you get stuck.
Actually, what would be good is that when you get stuck, you put an anchor out, you wrap the rope around the prop, and the prop just picks up the rope and drags you
and then
backwards.
eventually it cuts it and you're off you go.
Yeah, that's it. Then you just step up on board.
Step 1 in How to Perplex a Modern Man. Give them a set of instructions. Have you got a card? I'll go and get a card. No, get a spanner. We need a spanner. I think we need a spanner here. There's zips and... No, it's alright, hang on. No, it's definitely all foreign to me. I don't understand. How does this work? Do you put the card in? You don't put the card in. You put it over there. Let's press a button. Beep. Beep. Try the card out. Beep. Oh, hang on a minute. Maybe it works better with the card in. Beep. 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 Being powered by Detroit. Obviously, Renko couldn't go past the fuel dock.
Zoolander, Lois.
Yeah.
We should do a scratch together with developing a new steel, like rusty look. Oh my god!
There's more to life than being ridiculously really good looking. What we need to build is pretty straightforward. We've got a leg with a rotating sleeve that we welded in last week. We need to have the bench here. The seat is about middle of the bench, and it needs to be able to be height adjustable. So we're going to build an arm, sort of come down like this and go across to that sleeve with some reinforcing, something like that. We'll figure out what that's going to be later. But this seat needs to be able to slide up and down, so it'll go up in its highest position and it'll slide up and down in this sleeve that we're making here. Now that's fine looking at it from this orientation, but we have to make sure it clears our leg. So looking from the top, you've got your bench, we've got the leg about there, the seat will be about there when you've got it in and you're working, and the arm potentially will go straight across like that, but the seat has to come out. So if the seat's out like this, the arm's going to be on an angle, we don't want it whacking our legs, so we're actually going to put a kink into that arm. We're going to bend it like so, so that whenever it's in, it's basically behind you, and when it's out, it's off to the side, so it's never going to hit your leg. We're building out of stainless, so we don't have to deal with rust. This is some scrap that we found at the scrapyard a while back that we're going to use. These bends are greater than 90, so this bend here is, I don't know, 91, 92 degrees, something like that. We're going to be using this bend, and this one is actually bigger. We think it's probably another couple of degrees bigger. This is the same as one of the previous bends, but I just don't know if it's the same as this one or this one here. Either way, we have to use that bend down there, because we only got one of those, but we have two of these, so we have to figure out which one is the equal to use. We're going to then use this little bit of bar potentially for our reinforcing. We'll cut it across, the two bars across the top, and we'll have this zigzagging between them, and just weld it top and bottom. Figure out that when we get there. And these are our sliding mechanisms. So this is for the actual seat slider, so pipe inside a pipe. This is exactly the same pipe that we used for the slider on the leg. And yeah, it's just an easy way of making the vertical piece for our arm. I got the bevel out, and I figured out this angle here is the same as this angle here. So that answers our question as to which one we're going to be using. We'll get rid of that one at the back. We are going to be using the straight off that end down there, and also the straight at this end. So we'll probably cut it up here somewhere, and that's going to be the defining length of our seat mechanism. Like every quality baking show, I've pre-measured my ingredients. This mark here between these two is 550ml. That's the distance between where we're going to be welding on our seat pivot and where it's going to be welding at this end to the leg on the slider on the bench. So if we can mark it like that, I'll be able to figure out that length, cut it, do the same on both ends, and that's the top and bottom bracket for the seat. Back in the workshop, I need to understand my measurements. So this is our sliding mechanism on the leg. I need to know exactly where all the critical lines are. So from the floorboard up to the bottom of the slider is 190ml. Then from the floorboard up to the top of the slider is 490. I've got a 300ml slider, and then 730ml between the floorboards and the bottom of the bench. Now I also need to know where we're going to be mounting the seat in terms of height for the actual seat base. This method is as professional as it looks. Using the measurements we just took, I've been a good boy. I drew it up to scale. Look at that. That's how the bracket is going to sit under the bench. I've decided I'm going to shorten this little piece here. I'm going to take it up 100ml or so. And then we'll put our stainless reinforcing in here. I'm not 100% certain on space how much I'm going to have. I don't necessarily know if my stainless bar is going to be the right thing for the job. We've done a mock-up. I've cleaned up all of the pipes and everything that we're using for now. This is our basically mock-up of what's in the engine room. This is going to be our pivot for our seat, and you can sort of see the bent bar that goes behind it, and I've radiused it out so we can weld it properly. There's another bar that goes at the top here, something like that, sort of sits, there we go.
I was thinking it was lacking a little bit of strength for you guys.
Were you?
Yeah.
Still liftable.
It's still liftable. Well, that is the line.
It is the line. Basically, I'm not going to weld this top one in yet. I need to tack this bottom part together. So I'm going to tack these together, and then I'm going to take this up to the engine room and weld it into the piece of pipe that's on the leg. The reason being is because this pivot has to be absolutely perpendicular with that pivot, or the seat, you're going to capsize when you swing back and forth. So I need to make sure that I get those right. Once I got that right, then I'll have an exact measurement that we can trim this one up to suit. We'll get that cleaned up. So these have been buffed and then acid bathed, so that they're nice and shiny compared to just the standard finish. We'll do the same on that, and then we'll weld that one in.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
That's quite low, because you've got to tuck this wherever it is, the seat, up under the bench, right? And I know the bench is quite high, but that's quite high, isn't it?
You know what? I've completely forgotten about tucking the seat away. Now that Jess has checked my measurements for that seat, I've set up a little production line. I've got a piece of wood that's clamped together with an arbitrary height, 265mm. It's all clamped up tight so that it'll stay flush and perpendicular. I'm using this blue thing just to stop the whole lot from toppling over. I have a custom mount with height adjustable settings, and what that allows me to have is this at exactly the right spot I need to be able to TIG weld this in. Once everything was tacked up, it was time to do some kung fu level work with some pretty fancy looking maneuvers so that we can TIG and level at the same time. As normal on Brupeg, when we're designing something, we change the design halfway through the build. I decided to get rid of the reinforcing. This is heavy wall pipe, don't really need the reinforcing, it's strong enough as it is, but it also allows more seat adjustability if I can squeeze these two pipes a little bit closer together and then hang the seat slider down slightly, as you can sort of see here. So this piece that we just measured is 5mm too long. However, I haven't put a radius into that end of it, and that's going to gain us 5mm. So by the time we get this ground up so that we've got the recess done so it'll fit on that pipe, I reckon we'll gain that 5mm without having to do any cutting. I've notched this pipe out. It's a pretty easy, simple way. I use the bench grinder with an old wheel that has had a lot of abuse. It has a big rounded face on it. It's a very coarse wheel, so it helps just rip into the material, and you can see it just hose out a nice big radius that we can then match up to our pipe and TIG weld together. I gave it a clean up at the same time, so just a buff. I didn't go through the extent of polishing this one up, I just gave it a buff up on the wire wheel. That's more than enough for this seat mount. Time to start welding this thing together. We need something to bolt this seat to, so time for a seat mount. Shiny thing that we just made, I've measured it up. This is actually the base that goes onto the seat, so I need to drill the holes that go through that, and that'll screw onto the seat, and we're going to weld this onto the pivot that we just made. Lovely. Welding! Right, the mount is now cold, so we can actually touch it. This is my pivot for the seat. So what I'm thinking is, let's just tack the seat in place. Kind of doesn't matter where it goes, just needs to be squared. Right. And then we can slide the seat up and down and decide how long we want to cut this slidey piece, because we have two options for the seat. I want the seat to be adjustable up and down. I can either adjust it on the leg or I can adjust it on the seat. It sort of doesn't really matter which way we go, and I am going to put a pin through it so that it'll like lock up when it's underneath the bench, and it'll, if you want it to, lock up when it's out. Just so that you don't have to have it slopping back and forth when you're at sea. It kind of locks up and it holds you there. But we have some options as to where we can do that. The other thing is this seat folds looks a bit awkward, but it folds up. What I'm planning is to actually have it drop low enough so that I can push the whole thing underneath the bench so that we can keep this area really clear, because the motor's right beside us. We want to be able to service the motor really easily and be able to walk around, but at the same time, when we need the bench and we don't need to work on the motor, we want to have plenty of access for the seat to come out and be really comfy. Now, while it's entirely possible to plastic weld, I'd really rather not be doing it right now with my TIG welder. So short sharp burst on the TIG to get this thing locked up, and then I'm going to rip the plastic seat off and weld this up properly. Base now welded, it's time to bolt this thing together onto the seat and figure out our height. That's pretty honkily-dory. It's probably as high as we'd want to go. So let's mark that. Alright. Let's go and cut that. Getting better. Right, so that's our I don't want the seat out in the way position. I'll put a pin through here somewhere, probably easy to reach, just something like that. This will come out like so, and then probably use the same pin with a different hole to lock it in wherever you want to sort of sit. We'll figure that out. That can be done in the water once we know sort of where we want it to be. Might even put some sort of bungee in there just so that it doesn't go click, 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 click on that pin. Yeah, I don't know, see what we need. That's getting close, and it's height adjustable, so we can have shorties or longies. Well, now that that's working, I think we'll weld this up properly. Hoping is by welding this on here, the pipe would go ever so slightly out of round, which it has, and as such, it's stiffened up a wee bit, which is exactly what I was after. I don't want it to be floppy, so the fact that it's sort of taken that clearance out is actually a good thing. I've made some modifications. So I've put a 10mm hole in the slider, and I found a piece of pin. This is a bit of stainless, it's 9.5mm, so probably an imperial size, 3/8 maybe. But that, slid in like that, is going to be one of our stoppers. And then this gap here between these two washers that are tigged on, I'm going to use some bungee, and that's going to hold that pin in. And it's also very easy to grab because it's got a nice big handle on it. The next thing I have to figure out is where do we put a vise. This is a vise that was donated to Brupeg probably about 4 years ago now. I forget how long ago it was. It was a long time, and I've been wanting to stick it into one of our workbenches for that long. It's an awesome vice. If you've never seen one of these, it does regular clamping up here, but it does pipe down here, and you can spin the claws like so that you can have your pipe held nice and tight. It's got basically a V cut into it here, so it'll hold the pipe rigid, but it's also got a set of V blocks on the top, so you can put a pipe vertical and hold it as well. Great little vice. Really handy for what we're doing here, because we don't really have any idea what we're going to be putting in the vice yet. It's just job dependent. And you can also turn the base, so the base has a locking, it takes a while to unwind it, but basically has a locking pin, and you can rotate that and swivel that around as well. So yeah, really functional, awesome vice for what we need to do. So in fact, it was donated to the project so long ago that I can't recall who actually donated this. Your name escapes me, but your generosity absolutely doesn't. So if you're watching, thank you. Please let me know please let me know your name so that I can respond to you, because it's incredibly generous, and it's awesome to have such a good vice on this boat. What I need to do is actually just start drilling down through these bolt holes. These are 1/2 inch bolts that we're going to be using, 316 stainless, and the front 2 bolts will be going through this piece of stainless here. This is the 50mm box section that we put in to the front of the bench frame, and the back is actually just going through the 15mm plywood, but we're going to put pretty big washers on, as big as we can get. I'm not 100% certain if that's going to be enough. If the vice starts to wobble and do any funny things like that, I'll probably actually just get a large slab of metal and do a big pad sort of underneath the whole thing and bolt it down the back, or do what I have to do. But it might be a work in progress, but I think we'll be okay. I've marked it out. If I push it hard over into this corner, which gives me the most amount of usable bench space, it also allows me to drill straight through and pick up into the 50mm box, as well as the angle line, the 50x50 angle that's over in this corner. So I've got 3 corners basically hard into some decent solid stainless. This is the only corner that will be then relying on the plywood, so I think that's going to be a better solution. It also gives me more usable space, so let's crack on and get that done. These are going to be fairly chunky fastenings as it is, and every second vice that you find in some blokes' workshops normally only held on by 1 bolt and a piece of broccoli on the other side, so we should be good. This is a 13mm cobalt drill bit that I was trying to put through that stainless. 3 layers of stainless, and you can see how much it chews out the cobalt on it. Cobalt's pretty much one of the harder drill bits. So after a bit of a sharpen, this is what you're left with. If you work with stainless, drilling it, that sort of thing, you definitely need to know how to sharpen your own drills, because you will kill them, and it's going to save you so much money being able to do it yourself. Yep, that'll do me for the night. There's a reason that drill bit was already quite short. It's a very similar reason to what just happened. You may remember when I was putting the kitchen together, we had a pretty eventful day where I snapped it about 4 times. Yeah, I'll be in the morning to get a new drill bit.
Adrian put us onto Carl, who's a Cummins specialist in Brisbane, and we got an amazing deal. He had this marine fuel pump. And he had it all sort of organised for us, and he talked to Damien a lot about what else we need to make sure that it works, marinising our truck motor. So lots of parts, lots of stuff that we'll talk with you about later. It's brilliant. And we met up with Owen, who donated this airless paint sprayer, and we had a coffee with him. It was just awesome to meet him. So we'll get that sorted out and we'll start using that.
Alright, we're going to try a different tack. I've got just a high-speed steel drill. Now normally people freak out when you start doing stainless with those, but it's got one of my fancy cutting profiles on it. I'm hoping it's going to, I think it's in 7mm or an 8mm drill or something. I'm hoping it's going to chop through the hardened bit. Answering the question, can you cut stainless with High-speed steel? Yes, you can. Even better than cobalt sometimes. Let's go back to cobalt, see if we can get through. Now that we've got the centre in. Alright, we need to give that another sharpen because it's turned to garbage. Right, as always, when something gets a little bit challenging, we pull the mag drill out so that we can smash a hole in something. Alright, let's see if this works. Okay, so magnetic drill onto a stainless bench generally doesn't work, so I've got a stonking great big clamp holding it all together. Planned now is to basically just drop this 13mm, there we go, annular cutter down the hole that I've already cut and punch through the various layers. There's 3 layers of stainless I'm trying to get through. That's why we're having so much trouble with the drill actually getting through it. Just gets on a funny angle, bites up. I can't hold it stiff enough, and yeah, it turns to custard. So let's smash a hole with this big thing. How hard was that? You know, seriously.
Another wheel is rolling in. It isn't time to cry. We traveled all around the world to see the meaning of
I can't believe how easy that was. I got an air tank downstairs that I need to plumb into the system. It's getting mounted up over in the corner here.
You fill the room with joy. I could be a honey pie and save the world on the side just to see.
We're doing this thing. Hard hats are just stupid down here. They just knock off. So we've decided to do a bike helmet with a difference. We're going to have them lined up out here. This is my particular one. Thanks everyone for the suggestion so I don't knock my head again. Wow. I'm assuming this is not where things will remain.
No, for now, no.
I think it might tumble off, you know, when the boat hits the water. Wow. I really got to try this. Good. It works. This is amazing.
It's not a hammer, Jess.
No one ever told me that my head could be used in a hammer either, but it was. Oh my god, that's amazing. This is what I want to try and do.
So when you're servicing the turbo.
That's right. It's very cool. Really great.
Awesome, isn't it?
Yeah. What I really love about it is the amount of space. There's one thing I noticed in the comments that I thought was a fair comment until I understood your system. This one here, if you roll this out, it gets in the way of the gear. But of course it doesn't come all the way. And how far do you really need to take it out? But also it'll be stuff that you don't often use, right?
Well, there's a couple of things. Yeah, it's stuff you don't often use. If you've got stuff all over the bench, if you are at anchor and the boat's rolling around, stuff's going to fall off the bench anyway, because you got to stay incredibly tidy down here. This is not a constructing a big contraption, this is maintaining stuff. So it's...
I think the other thing too to remember is we're a big heavy boat, what, 65 tonne?
Yeah,
maybe even more if we're really laden down.
Yeah. And
it doesn't move that much. So it stabilises, it'll be very stable in the water. In fact, we'll probably have to correct those stabilisers because it'll be too stable when we're in the water with them. So this, when we're at anchor or on a mooring or in a berth, this is going to be a really usable space. But also you're going to be putting containers, aren't you? For anything that might roll, you're going to have containers somehow attached or something, can't you?
Yeah, so really simply, we've got a nice big flat surface, so containers with suction cups on the bottom, they can be put anywhere on the bench and removed when you don't want them, so they're a great way of actually just having like bulk containers, etc. while you're working. I have a love-hate relationship with fiddles.
Me too.
Mostly hate.
Mostly hate too. I hate them. You end up getting sore and
Yeah.
tired, and you don't work, you don't think because your
Yeah.
arms get sore, and
And,
you've got to sit in unusual positions. Your back gets sore.
In my experience, fiddles don't necessarily work as things to stop stuff falling off a bench if you're rolling around. They actually work as launch ramps. So when you roll, and then it just launches it into the stratosphere.
And then someone will say, but it's about height.
Yeah, exactly. So no fiddles on this bench. So I can have something going over the bench.
That is cool.
So there's that side of it.
Huh.
That's pretty awesome, I think. And then locks up pretty tight.
That is so cool.
So I can adjust it over that way, and if I want it to hang on the bench, I can tip the vice down.
Yeah, right.
Right, so you've got standard jaws. Everyone's used to what they can do. But you've got pipe jaws here. So because of the shape, you've got sort of flat here, and you've got a V cut into there. It'll hold a round pipe. And then if you open it up, you've got a V cut in this side, so it'll hold a vertical pipe. So you can, and again, you can spin them and you can put pipes any which direction. So it's incredibly handy as like a multi-function sort of unit, you know?
I love how you can get the grease in here.
Yeah, it's such a well thought out design, eh?
Thank you, mysterious man who donated this for us.
Very cool vice.